Welcome to our program. I'm Harry Greenberger. I'm the host for this show, and we're happy to have you here with us. Today we have a very special guest whose name is Ronald Wilson, who is a local New Orleans attorney. And sitting in with us also is Michael Malec, who is a member of the board of New Orleans Secular Humanists Association. Ron, I know that you have chosen as your specialty in practicing law, civil rights in general. I don't know a whole lot about what made you select that area of law, and also how your interrelationship with the Louisiana ACLU. Give us a little bit about your background, and then we'd like to also talk about some of the cases that you've been involved with.
I grew up in New Orleans. Attended Booker T. Washington High School, University of New Orleans. Attended law school at the University of Iowa and completed my legal education at Tulane. And with respect to civil rights, during law school, I thought the last thing I would be a civil rights attorney. I was more interested in labor law and also some aspects of tax. But during my senior year of law school, I had made an attempt to rent an apartment, and it was obvious that the apartment was not rented to me because of my race. And at that point in time, I concluded that if it could happen to me, someone who had gone to law school, who had completed a legal education, who basically was a solid citizen, then it could happen to almost anyone. So at that point in time, I decided that civil rights was the area of law in which I wanted to practice.
And you felt like it was an area where you were needed?
Oh, yes. Yeah, yes. And I became involved with the ACLU almost immediately after law school. And I've been associated with the organization for about 30 years, handling many civil rights cases for the ACLU.
You just said something that surprises me. You've been associated with them for maybe 30 years?
Yes, sir.
I would have thought that might be closer to your age.
I wish.
But you are not on the staff of the ACLU. They call on you when they need an attorney to handle a case. Is that the way it works?
Right. The ACLU in New Orleans operates for the most part through cooperating attorneys, or the ACLU in Louisiana through cooperating attorneys. What happens is that if there's a case of interest, if someone calls the ACLU with a complaint, it goes to the ACLU's legal panel. Then the legal panel makes a recommendation. Then it goes to the board, the executive committee, then the board. And once the case is considered by the board and the ACLU decides to handle the case, then they seek out an attorney to handle that particular case.
I see. Well, I know a little bit about that because there have been a couple of occasions when the ACLU has handled matters in which our organization, the New Orleans Secular Humanists Association, was the plaintiff. And I recognize it has to go through their approval process, and then they take it from there. I also, just trying to find out something about you, I pulled this out of the internet, and this was an announcement from the Center for American Progress and the American Constitution Society for Law and Policy. And they were doing a program on voting after Katrina, ensuring meaningful participation. And I found it interesting. Their moderator was Director of Programs for the American Constitution Society, and the people who were there to speak on the subject was Representative Arthur Davis from Alabama, Al Ader, who was a Louisiana Secretary of State, and a person whose name I can't pronounce, Associate Director of Litigation for the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, and Ronald Wilson, Esquire, New Orleans attorney. You were in there with some, some heavy hitters. What was that all about?
Well, it was after Katrina, the entire infrastructure, New Orleans was topsy-turvy. The entire voting system was in a total state of disarray because we had people who were displaced, and we had no mechanism for allowing those people to vote. And so what we did was a group of attorneys got together and decided to work locally and also with the Louisiana legislature to facilitate voting for the displaced individuals. And that panel meeting was a discussion with people from all across the nation as to what we were doing to facilitate voting for displaced individuals and how it's coming along.
Very good. Well, why don't you just tell us about some of the cases over the years which you have been involved with, and then you might want to talk about some that are currently in progress.
Well, I got to, one of my favorite people is Joe Cook, and
Joe Cook, being the Louisiana Executive Director for the ACLU.
Yes, and I saw Joe one day on the street, and we were just chatting. I said, if you get any cases that you need someone to handle, feel free to give me a call. And, that was an open invitation, to be called constantly by Joe. And he called me, the very first case on which he called me pertained to a young black lady who had gone to a bar in St. Charles Parish. She and her friend, they worked next door, so they'd gone to a bar to get a drink. And they were told that you can buy a drink, but you can't sit inside the bar and drink it. You have to take your drink outside. And she said, are you for real? And the guy said, yes. You can buy, but you can't drink it in here. So Joe called me, and we sent back some testers. The females were Afro-American. So we sent back some white testers who were allowed to buy drinks and allowed to sit inside to drink the beverages that they purchased. And right then and there, Joe and I realized that there was a problem, and that there was a problem with equal access for Afro-Americans. And we filed a lawsuit in the case, and the case was successfully resolved. So that was the beginning of handling cases under Joe. I'd handled cases during prior administrations. And I've handled ACLU cases pertaining to voting, discrimination, public accommodations, and right now I'm doing a lot of church-state cases for the ACLU.
Well, of course, our organization is primarily interested in church-state separation. However, we're also very much concerned with civil rights of all people, because our position is that since we are not anticipating an afterlife, that people should live the life they have, the one life they have, to the fullest that they can, a quality life, so long as they don't at the same time prevent other people from living their lives to a full extent. And so we are concerned with either the efforts of individuals, organizations, or governments to restrict people's rights to live fulfilling lives. So we are interested in church state, but we're interested in the other areas too. So carry on. Tell us about some of these cases.
Well, I think that's how I initially met you. I think Joe again said, I think it dealt with the post-Katrina celebration.
That is correct.
And you found it sort of strange that they would totally restrict you or your ability to speak.
Well, which would have been fine. This was the first anniversary of Katrina, and it has to do, with rebuilding and bringing things back. It was sponsored by the city of New Orleans. It was being held in the convention center. So we're talking about two government agencies, and it was billed as a prayer session. And in the newspaper, the article said that if some groups wanted to participate in this event, it told you who to call, which I did, and told them who I represented, and I said I wanted to participate in the first anniversary of Katrina because our people were affected the same as everyone else. And I wound up getting nowhere until I had to go to the ACLU. And it was because of their threat of imminent lawsuit that the city of New Orleans, the city attorneys, gave in, and they sent me an email allowing me 2 minutes. That's all right, 2 minutes. I was on the program, and we also required that they change the name of that event so that it was no longer a prayer session. It was a remembrance and rejuvenation and whatever else.
Right. And I think, Harry, what was somewhat offensive about that is I think they were planning on conducting a good old-time revival there.